Hey there, Ashleigh here. This is a picture of my garden, or at least part of it. Every year, I have big dreams about what I'm going to do with my garden. And every year, what really happens is a bit different than what I had in my dreams. You see, plants do not care what I want them to do. They are going to grow however best suits them, wherever I put them, or where their seeds fall. As much as I like tomatoes growing in the front yard, they do not care for that environment. They'll grow, but they don't get as big, and I get far fewer tomatoes. Instead, I've learned that they like my backyard. There's a bit more shade, and the soil is a little bit wetter, and they are much happier there. When I started working in my garden, I would get very frustrated when things did not go exactly as I had planned. But eventually, I learned that I had to change the way I was looking at it, to change my perspective. I learned that birds, or the wind, or other animals would bring seeds and drop them in my garden. And if I pulled those plants when they were still young, I wouldn't know what they'd become. I wouldn't know what gifts they brought me, like goat's beard, which makes these giant seed puffs. They're pretty amazing. Or the lemon balm with this wonderful citrus scent and flavor that I use for teas and other things. I learned to listen to my plants and let them grow where they do the best, rather than force them to struggle because it's where I wanted them to be. I also learned that sometimes my dreams were unrealistic. I would want things for my garden that I didn't necessarily have the space or the time for. So this is another way that the garden is kind of like the communities that you and I are a part of. Sometimes when we're in community, we have different ideas about what should happen or how people should act. Our dream of community is different than the reality of community. But we can learn a lesson from the garden. Just like I learned to listen to my plants and put them where they want to be, and I learned to be open to plants I wasn't expecting, we can learn to respond the same way when we're in community with each other. We can learn what gifts and talents and interests that each person has and encourage them in those areas. And we can learn to be open-minded when new people or new ideas happen that we weren't expecting in our dream of community. In church speak, some people might call that letting God happen. Ultimately, community is about living with one another, not ruling over one another. When we have different ideas or conflict between the dream and reality, we can talk to each other, or sometimes have a talk with ourselves, and we can find the best way that we can move forward together. So go and listen to your plants and listen to each other too. All right, thanks guys, take care. Bye.